Coming towards the end of our series of gratitude, of thanksgiving, of appreciation. We've been stirring this pot of gratitude and thanksgiving and appreciation. And I asked somebody in our community how they liked the series, and they said, I'll be glad when that's over. So, we learned a great deal from this month of gratitude. And just to give you an overview, some of the things that we tapped on was what you focus on increases. Like this we know to be true. And there were a couple of stories that we had to support. What you focus on increases. And then there was a silver lining, buddy. Like if you really wanted to up your ante in regards to gratitude, like get a partner and allow that partner to help you find the silver lining. Super helpful for you and for me, for us to move our stories through somebody that we trust, because they can really see blind spots and say, look, you're taking this too seriously, or you're being too sensitive, or maybe you could look at it this way. And gosh, isn't that great? When we talk about helping each other, and that we are spiritual teachers, like this is where we get to practice with each other. Takes some vulnerability though, doesn't it, to allow somebody in to tell our truths to. And then there's the reminder that Course in Miracles said that the only thing that God wanted for us is for our gratitude towards our brother. And finally, last week we covered the sacred art of bowing. Of bowing down in gratitude was a demonstration, a physical demonstration of our showing our devotion in gratitude, and that when we bow to the situation, we come from a place of both passivity and power. And to have the experience of these two things sitting together in our bones, it's a really audacious experience. Power and passivity, those were some of the highlights of it. And that it wouldn't be surprising as we move through and turned up all of these conversations on gratitude and thanksgiving, that many of us came across the classroom of receiving. Because that's the reciprocal nature of giving. Giving and receiving, of Course in Miracles, it says, is one and the same. Giving and receiving is one and the same. It's two sides of the same exact coin. So A Course in Miracles actually says that no one can give what he does not receive. Like no one can give what he hasn't had. And to give requires first that you own it in your possession. That's something that we can all understand. Like I can't give something what I haven't received. This makes sense. And it says this is where A Course in Miracles and the world agrees. That you need to have it before you give it. But this is also where A Course in Miracles and the world departs. Because it says, according to the world, in order to maintain having, you need to keep it. Right? We can all agree on that. If you want to have it, you got to keep it. But A Course in Miracles says in order to have it, you got to give it. And it's such a radical shift. And we know about this, those of us who are in the 12-step program. Like, you carry it to maintain it for yourself. And in the Course in Miracles, it says an idea shared is strengthened. So as you share these concepts, and many of you have dipped your toe into A Course in Miracles for the first time, or these concepts, and you find yourself sharing it, and it feels so euphoric to share it, because you're like, wow, I didn't know that I knew that. And I own it more because I've shared it. So why do we want to practice the art of unconditional receiving and unconditional giving? Because the truth is, it's not ours. It's not ours. All of this is on loan. It's not personal. When we talk about today's ideas, it's not personal. Don't take it personally. It's not ours. We want to actually figure out how to move into the flow of giving and receiving, and that will bring us to our affluence when we're in that flow of giving and receiving. That requires that we give up maintaining and having. That's a hard thing to give up. So often in our community, we're like, this is my community, these are my shoes, this is my husband. But that's a possessive pronoun. Gets us into problems. Because what if I lose my shoes in my community and my husband leaves me, which has been known to happen? Then I'm in pain. Attachment equals pain. So we want to just look at everything as something that is gifted to us in this moment. To let go of the possessive, the idea of owning this. We own nothing. That's a hard concept. We are never in full possession of anything. Everything is just passing by. We're just on a lovely stroll in God's garden. And we get to enjoy the season at hand, right? But this is not what we do. Actually, what we do is this is great, I want to own it. And we chop down all the flowers and we take them home to our house so we can have them by ourselves. And then we go about the world and it seems like it's in lack and limitation because we hoard it so much. But imagine if you went through everything with just that ease and grace of knowing this is mine today, I'm going to enjoy it today. I've had so many experiences, and I invite you into this practice where I've been in amazing places. And I allow myself to sit in these beautiful places and say, thank God that my consciousness reflects to me in this beauty and I don't have to pay taxes on it. You know what I mean? So look around your world and see, look at us. We're this gorgeous church. Somebody designed this and renovated it, and we get to live here on Sunday morning. It's gorgeous. So, to enjoy your relationships as they come and go, because they will come and go, won't they? I mean, that's been proven. To be in the ebb and flow of relationships, instead of having to stamp our brand on everything and say, this is mine, this is my territory. This experience would better be served if we were to come to everything as if we were water as opposed to bulldozers. Water has this beautiful ability to be fluid and just to flow. Water teaches us, like the ocean teaches us, about the ebb and flow of all things, without making meaning of anything. So imagine if you stood at the ocean as it was your teacher, and you said to yourself, every time something comes to me, I'm so blessed by the ocean, I'm so blessed, and these are my blessings. What would happen would be, you would be happy and joyful 50% of the time, because the ocean resents. And we live in this land of giving and receiving. And it teaches us giving and receiving, and breath is about giving and receiving, and life is about giving and receiving. But we kind of get stymied and stuck, because giving and receiving are actually very hard. The ego lives right on the cusp of all giving and receiving. And we have to be super vigilant about, are we giving in love and are we receiving in love? This week we're going to kick into unconditional receiving. Isn't that a cool concept? Unconditional receiving? One of the coaching calls, Miracles Live 365, the idea of unconditional receiving came up, and the questions that quickly followed were like, what does that look like? And how do you practice it? And why is it important? And what does it have to do with not taking anything personally? Let's begin with a simple concept, that nothing comes to you unbidden. But the truth is, nothing comes to you unbidden. Everything that shows up at your shores is a direct reflection of your consciousness. Form follows consciousness. We've said this before. As you give, you do receive. This is the law of reciprocity. This is the law of cause and effect. This is an impersonal law. You know, we can't argue with it, but we get to dance with it. You do not get what you want. You get what you are. And again, like for some of us, that might be good news or bad news, depending on what's showing up at our door. But this is okay. Because whatever it is, whatever aspect is showing up on your door, you don't have to judge it. And you don't have to take it personally. You can battle with it, you could blame it, you could berate it, you could do all those things to whatever shows up at your door, or you could bow to it and you could bless it. And you could say, this must be for me. This must be for me. There's a blessing in this for me. And Deb has demonstrated that with the dance that she did with her husband, Joe. It's amazing to witness when people go through this opportunity where we're known to have great battles, because when anything begins to die, we do it in 3 ways: death, destruction, or divorce. And all of those are messy and ugly. So when you have the opportunity to do something consciously and say, I turn this unhealthy relationship into a friendly, oh my gosh, like you just took an ancient hatred and turned it into a current love. And that's what A Course in Miracles calls as the most sacred space on earth, is where an ancient hatred becomes a current love. And when we get to see someone demonstrate that, it becomes more possible for the rest of us. So thank you. So no matter what, bless it. Even if the blessings show up, if the battlefield shows up on your front doorstep, say, this is for me. You've heard me talk a lot about this in the past, about, you know, the 2 sides of the seesaw. And the 2 sides of the seesaw are ego of this is either I'm great or I'm terrible. Like, this is what the ego wants us to know. I'm so much better than these people, or I'm so much worse than these people. And it says, this has a song of the ego. It says, like, oh my God, look what's happening to me. So if it's like horrible, it's like, oh my God, look what's happening to me. And if it's wonderful, it's like, oh my God, look what's happening to me. We want to find ourselves like in the center of that. And in the center of that is where God lives. And in the center of that is when we hold our hands in prayer and say, oh my God, look what is happening for me. Yeah, look what is happening for me. This is for me. This is a gift for me. I'm going to be so blessed by this. So that's the optimal way to approach things, is this is happening for me. So it seems hard, because how can we be grateful in the shitstorms of life? I mean, that is the main question, right? What we know here is that the story's not over yet. I mean, that's all it is. You get hung up and strung out because you think you're stuck in the crucifixion, but the story's not over yet, and you're in good hands. And the way that we can turn those shitstorms, and I'm sorry I keep saying these horrible words in Sunday morning, whatever, you're used to it, is the way that we can find balance on that seesaw and bring ourselves back to the holy moment is by doing the very thing the ego does not want us to do, and that is to reach out. To reach out to those before us and say, hey, I need some help here. I need some help. I don't know how to navigate this. I'm open to receiving. And to reach behind us and say, hey, I know what you don't know. I can help you. And as we reach forward to give and as we reach back to receive, we find ourselves in balance. And then we can surf any wave that life brings to us. Do you have somebody a counsel that you go to? Do you have somebody that you're mentoring? This might be something to contemplate. I mean, it makes your life more fully rounded. There might be people that you're already doing this for that you haven't identified consciously that you're doing this. To do that, to consciously find who are the people that you can trust. This morning I called 2 of my friends and I was like, was I a crazy person on the phone this morning? And they're like, yeah, a little bit. Thank God they're willing to tell me the truth, man. I mean, I don't need people blowing smoke at me. You don't need that. You need somebody who's going to tell you the truth. Ego doesn't really want to be humble and receive the truth. Instead it wants to be a hero. So what the ego does is it runs around and tries to help everybody else and never actually goes into receiving. And that's why unconditional receiving is a real great tool to work with. Because we want to give, sometimes we want to give, but that's the very thing that blocks us from being vulnerable and receiving. And saying, hey, guess what? Everything's not working perfectly on my side of the block. I don't want you to know that. If you're standing in leadership, which you all are standing in leadership, we're going to be having a class coming up called Spiritual Leadership, and you guys all qualify for that. That's the first thing that leadership does, is hide all your wrinkles and your worries and your warts, because you're never going to be the president with that kind of background. But actually, those are the things that help leadership. To actually bring out your dead and be like, yeah, I went through cancer and addiction, divorce, and whatever else. I've been nasty and ugly in the fetal position on the bathroom floor. I have. Well, how else could I be helpful to you if I wasn't? When we're in this law of reciprocity, what we get to rest on is the idea that it doesn't matter what you think of me, it doesn't matter what I think of you, we're defined by God. And God is so delighted in bringing forth the kingdom for you. We talked about this last week. If you don't have that kind of a God that delights in you and that fawns on you and that brings you to the right people, places, and things all the time, then get a bigger God. Just do it. Just fire that old God and say, thank you, we're going to have a beautiful parting of ways. We're going to turn this unhealthy relationship into a new friendship, and I'm going to get a bigger God who loves me unconditionally. How the hell else am I going to love other people if I don't have a God who loves me unconditionally? And so in my meditation, my divine often says to me, Maureen, why are you stressing and struggling for what I would bring you gladly and easily? Why? I say, why, God? Because I don't trust you. Today we were talking about trust, to rely on spirit totally. Do I do that? No. I often say, we should be like sugar cubes in the hot cup of tea of God, which sounds poetic and beautiful, but as well as I do, that I'm hanging on the ledge of the teacup. I'm not going all the way in. I'm not ready to fully be immersed in my own divinity. And so I will tread water, and I will make it look really hard. So don't do that. Allow yourself to melt a little bit. Allow yourself to trust God a little bit. The reason I don't always trust God, and this might be true for you too, is that we are impatient and that we are resourceful. Wow. Right? I'm impatient. I'm like, God, yesterday? I need this yesterday. How come this isn't showing up? Forget it. I'll get it myself. And we know the law of attraction, so we can work that magic if we want to. But if I go my own way and get my own will, it's going to come with a hangover. I don't want that anymore. I want to go as a channel. I want to wait on God. I want God to do the heavy lifting for me, and God will if I give God a chance. So this is not always easy to do, and I'm going to tell you how I did it really wrongly. So a couple years ago, I was working with these principles of being a channel and allowing and unconditional receiving, which is very hard for a resourceful girl, because again, the reason that we don't do this is because I'm going to be afraid that I'm going to owe you something, and I'm keeping score. You may not be keeping score, but I'm keeping score. And I don't like to be hung up and beholden to anyone. It's very hard to allow the universe to supply your good without rushing to get it yourself. Opportunity where I wanted to go get a coffee from Starbucks. And I'm outside of Starbucks and I'm like, right now it's $6. The kind of coffee I like, $6. I have high taste. And I was like, I just can't afford to go spend that money right now. So I just want to manifest a cup of coffee today. The universe, bring me a cup of coffee. I go down to my job at Bodhi Spiritual Center, and I show up, and the janitor comes up to me and he says, Maureen, can I get you a cup of coffee? Literally says that to me, and I forgot that I had asked for this, and I go, no, I'm fine. I don't need a cup of coffee. And I watch him turn away and leave, and I remember, oh my God, I asked for a cup of coffee, and then I denied it. What the hell's wrong with me? And funnier than that, and I can't write this, what happened next was my phone rang, and I picked up my phone, it's Deb Pinsoff from New Hampshire, and she, the whole of Deb, she goes, "Hey Maureen, could you give me a prayer for receiving?" I was like, weird. That's so weird. I'm like, me too. You know, anytime anybody asks you for something, it's usually because you have to heal that as well. In practitioner training, they always told us that if somebody comes to you with a problem, it's because you either have mastered it or you're still working on it. So I was still working on that, and she came to me so that I could bring it immediately to prayer. So we do this prayer, and the guy comes back with his coffee, and he says to me, "Hey Maureen, do you want a tamale?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And I eat the tamale, and the tamale is delicious, but the problem is, if you ask the universe for coffee and you deny it, you're going to end up with a tamale. But maybe not exactly what you want. So God's going to try and get your good to you somehow, but if you keep kind of blocking it, it's like whack-a-mole. You're playing whack-a-mole with God. And it's like, could you just make it easy for you? I want to feed you. I want to lift you. I want to praise you. I want to delight you. It would be nice, you know, to have a God that delighted in us, that really delighted in us, that this is the day the Lord has made for us to rejoice and be glad, that our good is at hand, that God's not playing any tricks with us, that everything is for us. So, that's what we're working on this week. We're going to see if we can really open ourselves up to receiving, unconditional receiving. And when somebody offers something, just say, "Yes, thank you." Just practice saying, "Yes, thank you," with compliments. "Oh, yes, thank you. I can receive that." It might feel really awkward and uncomfortable, but it's filling up your well so that you can extend it. And you can't give what you don't have. So some of you might feel like thirsty houseplants right now. We're like, "God, why is nothing working out for me?" It has to do with your ability to receive. Let it in and don't judge where it comes from. That was my problem. In my mind, I thought, he's a janitor. He has less money than me. He had more money than me because he was buying himself a cup of coffee and somebody else. Jesus! So, we're going to focus on the poetic idea of the ocean. We've been thinking about the ebb and flow of the ocean. And the ocean is a great teacher because she bows down, as we talked about last week. She bows down and she lets the rivers and streams all come to her. And when the rivers and streams all come to her, they immediately get immersed into her dance of ebb and flow, and ebb and flow. And so that's how we want to work as well. We have to receive in order to be able to give. It's a beautiful demonstration of how we can demonstrate maybe our giving be gushing forward in gratitude and our receiving be bowed down, humble, and open heart. And if we do this, I think we can be ensured that we will all have a very happy Thanksgiving and receiving.